Call to order the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gabriel?
Here.
Craig?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
John?
Here.
Erica?
Here.
The records will show that Tommy George Jr. and Mike Swearingen are both on excused absence.
We'll move on to comments from the audience. First, we have Ian Bingham.
Thank you so much. Members of the school board and ladies and gentlemen of the Fort Zumwalt community, my name is Ann Bingham. I am the sole parent representative of the Find the Light Foundation. We are a not-for-profit organization that was founded and managed by students and alumni of our community. And we are dedicated to ending the epidemic of suicide and death by overdose in students and recent alumni in our community. Today, we mourn 3 more young people in as many weeks who have died from overdose in our district. The simple fact is what we are doing isn't working. It isn't working. We know this because our children are going to far too many funerals. We know this because the data bears out that our students tell us that they know not just 1, not just 2, but many students that have died either by suicide or by overdose before the time they graduate. Something needs to change. When we have something this big, it often feels like we can't fix it. We don't know where to start. We feel like it's just simply a part of life. But we can start by creating programs by the kids, for the kids, and about the kids. And we have to do that because we have to start to listen to them and understand that as adults, we don't always know what's going on in their heads. We think we might, but we don't always know what's happening in their minds. We need to accept that. I know it's a radical change of thought, but that is why I'm here tonight. If we want our students to know about the mental health services that we have available to them, we have to ask the users of those services. We have to ask the teenagers. As adults, we can't simply assume what teenagers think and need. Our district is known for innovative education. We have a long-standing history of this, and we're implementing Leader in Me. One of the guiding tenets of Leader in Me is raising student voices, working with faculty to improve the school community, as well as addressing things like social emotional learning, building student resilience, addressing bullying, positive and safe school culture, mental health and restorative practices, and school and career readiness. Today, when it comes to the mental health of our students, our data tells us that we fall woefully short of asking students and implementing feedback from those that we want to use those services. Our preliminary data tell us that our current programs, well-intentioned though they are, actually fall very short of meeting the actual needs of those students. And the places that places each and every one of those students, each and every one, not just those we think of at risk, but every one of them at risk for death of suicide and death of overdose. We've identified critical gaps in helping students prepare for post-graduation transition. It's a time when we have seen a large number of suicides and death by overdose, and we can and we must do better. The Find the Light Foundation has developed valid and reliable tools to gauge our student climate and our well-being. But more importantly, we have the expertise of the students and recent graduates to gain student trust. We are pleased with the board and the administration's increased focus over the past 12 months on mental health, both for our students and for the staff and faculty. We renew our request at this time for the board to form a committee to review the existing data and to begin planning at this point steps to address this alarming trend that continues and has been continuing in the Fort Zumwalt School District. We stand ready to share our expertise and our tools and resources and work alongside the Fort Zumwalt administration and school board and share our work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next we have Erin Ness.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me last time. I was up here 2 months ago. I believe we still need to broaden the scope and form a dyslexia committee uniting the Board of Education, our teachers, our leaders, and our parents. And I'd like you to please consider that dyslexia committee again. Thank you.
And we have two that were sent in online. The first one is from Arnie Dinoff. Here. Board of the agenda. Okay. Dear Board of Education Directors, reference, Board of Education meeting, board testimony, and public comments. For the agenda comments for the audience. Can the Board of Education entertain a motion to amend the submittal time period of public testimony, public comments to the Board of Education, and I assume to Recording Secretary Tammy Green? Audience citizen comments, public testimony is currently only allowed between 3:30 and 4:30 the day of the school board meeting. I would like to see a change that is more fair and extending an olive branch to the community to allow flexibility and more options to participate and share a resident's comments with the directors of the Board of Education. I would ask that the board change the filing period for a public comment from when the agenda is posted until 5:40 the day of the posted school board meeting. 6A on the agenda board meeting minutes. I am requesting that the Board of Education offer more and additional transparency with additional information, records, and supporting documents. Lack of documents and details in the Board of Education meeting minutes through the public comment section. The community and the public deserve to read and hear more details of what the speaker is stating to the Board of Education. This is the right thing to do. Jaeger Special Transportation Agreement. I would request the board to go out for bid and open up the bid process to allow competition and ensure quality services. 7A on the agenda, fiscal school board budget. The school district has been made whole with money sent by the federal government, state government, and the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. There is no deficit existing with the school district. The reserve fund is increasing and with additional revenues. County assessor reassessment of all district residential, commercial, and agricultural properties will yield a result in additional tax revenues. The economy is in good shape. There is development and building, which will result in additional tax revenues. There is an increased funding in state funding and in the education appropriations bill. We as a school district do not need a tax increase and have had more funds than in 2019. Stop crying on the backs of our residents in the community. Learn to live within a fiscal budget like the rest of us and find ways to cut district waste and wrong spending. Renewal of the auditor's agreement. I request that the board go out for a competitive bid for the lowest cost in auditing services. Return to school plan. Offer options that are currently in place for all families and for the best needs of the student. City of O'Fallon School Resource Officer Partnership. I have a problem with the cost share proposed contract. It is very lopsided. The cost share and contract do not reflect a true partnership. The community and city have a responsibility for public safety with the school and school buildings. I propose that the district negotiate a fair contract for 10 months to 5 months, a 50-50 plan. And the last one is from Corey Bedner. This evening, the upper level world language curriculum will be presented to the board for approval. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Mrs. Samantha Vogler for her hard work leading the process as our world language curriculum coordinator. The curriculum that will be presented, while the work of many, would not have been possible without Sam's dedication and leadership. Sam became our world language curriculum coordinator just a few years ago, and the district couldn't have made a better selection. Sam was ready to bring about positive change to the position in our world language classes. When she first learned that there wasn't much in the way of formal training for her position, she took initiative to seek out professional development opportunities and met with other world language curriculum coordinators from other districts to learn about their curricula, methodologies, and how to best facilitate the transition from a more traditional approach to an acquisition-friendly, proficiency-based approach. Leading up to curriculum writing, Sam was able to secure multiple and significant professional development opportunities for world language teachers across the district to help us transition to a more proficiency-oriented mindset. Then, when the time came for us to write curriculum, she was able to organize the writing sessions in such a way that all teachers, even those who had not taken advantage of the PD opportunities, would still be able to learn about language acquisition and come to understand and even embrace why we want to consider changing our former approach. She helped us take ownership of the new curriculum we were molding by encouraging us to explore and discuss our collective goals and means by which we would best achieve them, always referring back to the ACTFL standards and proficiency guidelines along the way. Of course, with any major change comes some resistance and uncertainty, but Sam was always prepared to listen and facilitate tough conversations while remaining a fierce advocate for doing what is best for students, even if that may not always be what's easiest for teachers. This past year, as we began implementing the new lower level curriculum district-wide, she also started compiling and emailing out a monthly PD newsletter full of articles and activity ideas shared by different teachers from both in and outside of the district to support us in the implementation process. Truly, I could not have wished for a better curriculum coordinator to guide us along the way. Though I know Sam has had a lot on her plate as a mom, teacher, department chair, and curriculum coordinator, she has always made time to be there for us, whether that be listening to our concerns, providing support through our challenges, or offering a critical ear for different ideas we've wanted to run by her. She has been a consummate professional and resource for all of us as we transition into the new curriculum, and I want to thank her for all she has done for the district during her time as curriculum coordinator. Oh, sorry. I skipped number 3. We need to adopt the agenda. We need a motion, please.
And move for adoption as presented.
Callahan, can I get a second?
Second.
Emmons, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That comes from audience. All right, so number 5 on our agenda is recognition. And we have, I'm going to turn that over to Dr. DeBray.
Yeah, we have, of course, with COVID, we didn't have our staff appreciation dinner this past year, unfortunately. So first opportunity we could have, we wanted to bring our employee and teacher of the year in to be officially recognized by the board and to meet you. So we have Jeff Shearer from Hawthorne, our kitchen manager. Come on up, Jeff. We got a little token for you. Jeff is our kitchen manager at Hawthorne. And if you hear from Paul Becker and the kids over at Hawthorne, they think they've really got it made having Jeff as their kitchen manager. So we wanted him to come in. We want to present you this, Jeff, in honor of your selection as Employee of the Year, and congratulate you. Is there anything you want to say to the board at all?
Thank you very much. I think I speak for everybody on support staff and teachers throughout this district. I feel like I just did my job, played my part, but it's a tough year for everybody, and I think from custodial staff, teachers, folks on the board, kitchen staff, I know I couldn't do it without my ladies there. It was a tough year, but we pulled it off and, did the job that was expected of us. And
You did, and you
made
made
everyone proud.
You made it a lot more agreeable for the kids that were there, and they really love you for everything you did. So thank you again for
Thank you, Doctor.
being our Employee of the Year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
What's that? Who else?
The missus is with him. Does she want to come take a picture?
Oh,
No. What's the lifetime opportunity?
Okay, that was our Employee of the Year. Now we'd like to have Sarah Hudson come forward, teacher at Forest Park, and Heather Miller, come on up, our principal at Forest Park. Sarah, first let me present you this and
Thank you so much.
congratulate you
Thank
for
you.
being our Educator of the Year.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And Heather, would you let's say a few words about Sarah?
Yes, I would like to very much. It's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Hudson, the Forest Park Elementary Teacher of the Year and the Fort Zumwalt Educator of the Year. Sarah's taught 5th grade at Forest Park since 2018. She's an innovative teacher and makes learning fun for her students. She incorporates technology, promotes collaboration, and nurtures leadership. Sarah has transformed her classroom into many things, including a hospital, a campground, and a restaurant. Students have been caught playing Battleship with coordinate planes, attending virtual field trips, and creating websites just to publish their writing. She has been actively involved in a variety of clubs and initiatives, including leading our Student Engagement Action Team as part of Leader and Me at Forest Park, co-sponsoring the Science Club, and supporting staff and our families through the unique circumstances placed on us by COVID this year, including creating a really fantastic interactive virtual open house that our entire community was just delighted with. Sarah's caring, she's positive, she's hardworking, she's eager to learn. She's a Fort Zumwalt alumna, and I am very proud to introduce her to the Board of Education this evening as the Fort Zumwalt Educator of the Year.
Thank you so much.
Another picture?
Yes, please. Okay, got it.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dr. DeBray, if I may just say too, Jeff stood up here and said, I was just doing my job, and I want you to know that at Forest Park this year, we lost our kitchen staff, and he wasn't just doing his job. He went above and beyond. He came over to our building and literally took over the kitchen with a smile on his face. Was fantastic, so supportive. So Jeff, thank you for everything you did for us at Forest Park this year. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
I just wanted to thank the board for allowing us to be in person this year. I think as one of the largest districts in the state of Missouri, to go back in person, you were not only a positive example for our community, but the entire state. So I just want to thank you for that as well.
Next we have our consent agenda. Need a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Callahan, can I get a second, please? Mr. Helms, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we go under financial reports. Mr. Orr.
Members of the board, the first part of the financial report this evening is the draft budget, which you guys have had in your electronic packets since last week. I handed out a hard copy of the budget message that I've drafted to go along with that right now. Just a brief summary of what we have is our current original budget is projecting a total ending fund balance of $59.7 million for all the funds, and an operating fund balance of $35.7 million, or 15.9% for the general and teacher funds. This does represent a surplus of about $6.8 million in the teacher and general funds and operations. Total revenues for the original budget are projected to be $264.2 million for all funds, with operating revenues of $224.8 million for just operating. And this does represent a projected increase of $6.1 million when compared to the May revised budget that we had at the end of this current year. This does include, I want to point that out, the $10.8 million of this final round of stimulus of the ESSER 3. Total expenses in this budget are projected to be $257.4 million for all funds, and operating expenses of $231.7 million. This is an increase in operating expenses of $4.9 million. The majority of that is related to salary and benefit increases, which accounts for 4.5 of the 4.9. That's pretty much all I was gonna present as far as a summary. If you guys wanna you'll have this for the next week until we come back next Monday with the final draft. I don't expect much to change between now and then. I am still reviewing certain areas and going through and fine tuning some things, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or call me or whatever. I don't know if you have any questions now for anything you've seen in the budget. Anybody?
If I have a question for
Sure.
you. So where we're at right now is because we got that money, that
Correct.
one-time payment.
Yes.
So next year, we're not gonna get that payment.
Correct.
Have you looked at those numbers of where we're gonna be projected to be at with that and what percentage that puts us at?
So basically, in a nutshell, how that's gonna work, we're getting an extra $10.8 million this year. Well, let me back that truck up just a little bit. This current fiscal year, we're getting $7 million in stimulus money. This next year in this budget's 10.8, and then the year after that, that drops off. So it's going to show, if you look at this 6.8 surplus right now, you deduct 10.8 million from that, that would be a $4 million deficit right now if we did not have this one-time money. So that's kind of in a nutshell, with nothing else changes, where we will be when we're just starting next year is gonna be at a $4 million deficit if we don't have any additional revenue, and I'm not aware of anything in new revenue that's coming down the pipeline. This is our reassessment year, so we got about 3.8 million more in operating funds from the tax base. The next year's non-reassessment, so we don't see a lot of growth in local taxes on non-reassessment years.
And we also lost that $10 million that they just never paid us with, right? From
Well,
last.
I think it was more like 3.5. It was 3.5 from the year before, and we'll never get that money. We'll never see that.
Jeff, in this budget, what's the reduction in expected state revenue is 1.6, is it?
Correct.
How do we look on the federal and local side?
The local side, what do you mean federal and local side?
Well, ultimately what I'm trying to get to is an understanding of, if we did take that $10 million out, we would have a $6.5 million deficit, right?
It'd be roughly $4 million deficit for operations.
Okay, so 4 million. 1.6 million of that is associated with state revenue deficiencies. What would cover that additional 2.4 million? Or would we just are we spending into a $2.4 million deficit if everything was normal?
If we didn't have the 10.8, we would be at a $4 million total operating deficit. And I know there was a $1.6 million decrease that I have in as a variance due to our decline in our enrollment and what I think our projected basic formula payments are gonna be. So it would just start eating into that fund balance even further. So, I mean, the only reason we're at almost 16% is because of the stimulus money. I don't know.
Just to say it another way, I don't feel like we're getting to a point where we are not deficit spending. I mean, even if we didn't have the stimulus money, we'd be in deficit spending.
That is correct.
I don't see a way out of that at this point.
Well, right now, the main reason we're deficit spending is because we triggered the contingency language and we're able to give raises to staff, which is around the $4.5 million mark. So staff salaries and benefits, that shows the increase in here is that. I mean, I just don't see how we could continue to give raises in our current state without further deficit spending. I mean, I guess that's the only other way I can put it. If we freeze expenditures right now, there will eventually be some kind of revenue growth. But next year is not a reassessment year, so I wouldn't expect to see a lot from the tax base. But with our current balances, we have enough to support it another year, and possibly a year after that, which then gets us to reassessment. It should fill
And the other
void.
thing is, Jeff, you're assuming we're gonna spend all that 10.8 million.
Correct.
We won't necessarily have to spend that money. We can just keep that in our balances to keep us going as we get increased expenditures. So it doesn't have to all be spent at once,
It
is
does
what I'm
not.
saying.
It's just built into this budget and would
Right.
be a
Exactly.
surplus and roll to the bottom line to carry forward.
But we do need to be looking in the future next,
Right.
I think is where Tom's going to, that, you know, we can't have it pop up and be a surprise that, oh, we're deficit spending again, and what do we do? You know, and especially with long-range planning, how can we do that if we don't have a plan for our funding?
Right.
So,
The
okay,
only- yeah. So the only other question I had, do you see there being a risk in including the 10.8 million in this budget as though it was guaranteed?
I mean, they're telling us 10.8, that's what our allocation is, that's what they presented to us and given to us in writing, but I was also told that that could be subject to change, and I don't know by how much.
Yeah.
So I can't say that it's guaranteed at this point. I've heard a couple of different dates as far as when they think those funds might be available as well. And the initial allocation is only supposed to be in the 7.2 to 7.4 range for out of the 10.8. So I mean, I don't even know if the full 10.8 million will be available in this the next fiscal year. That's just what I've heard. I don't know if you've heard anything otherwise.
I don't agree, it's gonna be there. It's a federal stimulus. They've already put the allocation in the newspaper. It's gonna be there, but it has to be appropriated by the state legislature, which will not meet again until January. So it's not gonna be available during the first part of the school year.
Right.
I do believe it is gonna be available down the road, and it's just a question of the state allocating the money, because they're gonna have it. They're gonna have it. It's just a question of giving it to the schools who the government expected to get it. So we'll have to see if there's gonna be any game playing or what.
That's what I'm worried about, is them appropriating the funds.
Well, I trust the money there. All right.
anybody else? All right, Jeff, if you would move on to the renewal of the auditor agreement, please.
Next item is the renewal of the auditor agreement. Clifton Larson Allen has been the district's independent auditor for quite a few years, and we've worked with this firm, and they've been great. They've given us great service. I think they do a great job. They're proposing to remain the district's auditor for another year with a minimal increase of $700. That will bring our total fee to $24,450. I have contacted other districts of similar size, Rockwood, Parkway, as well as Francis Howell. They all use KEB, and their fees range anywhere from $30,000 to $39,000. Rockwood was the lowest, and they had actually just awarded a 5-year agreement with KEB. So based on that information, I feel like we're getting a really good deal on our audits of school districts are very specialized, and not all audit firms out there have the expertise or the understanding. They just don't have contact with school districts. So we're a little bit of a different animal with a lot of the compliance and testing and things we do. So right now, I'd like to recommend that we renew with Clifton Larson Allen for 1 more year, which will be the year we're actually just finishing, which is the 2021 school year. And so when we finish June 30th, it'll be for basically the previous year.
Anybody have any questions? John? Okay, if not, I need a motion to approve Clifton Larson Allen for a total of $24,450. Mr. Helms, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Emmons, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Jeff?
Last thing in your packet is the accounts payable report. I normally will bring in June the monthly financials, which will be closer to a year-end summary next week instead of this week. This is just to approve the bills and the warrant report that you have, just to get some of the bills paid and checks out the door to the vendors that are waiting on them. And we'll probably have a small checklist next Monday as well. But just asking for the approval of the bill so we can get
Need
people
a
paid.
motion to approve the accounts payable report presented. Need a second, please? And then, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Dr. DeRay, old business?
First item under old business is facility planning. Lisa, you want to bring the board up to date on our current projects?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Bray. Members of the board, currently we don't have a lot going on this summer. We're working on the PDC, as you all know. We're doing a lot of site work. It's continuing. We just put up the exterior lights. Still trying to get the parking lot in. This rain keeps curbing our efforts on that. Interior wise, we're working on the painting. We're doing installing casework. You see a lot of contractors in there doing final connections or working on final connections for plumbing, electric, all that. We still need to do flooring, so we still got a ways to go, but we're getting there. It's really starting to look good. I'm anxious for everybody to get to see it. So that one's coming along. Summer projects, interior renovations. We were doing some work at Jail Mud, Forest Park, and Progress South. Those are moving along as scheduled. Basically, we got all the demo done. We're painting at Jail Mud, waiting for flooring to arrive for the other schools, and we're going at it. So that's about all I got for the project updates at this point.
Awesome. Do you want to move on to the cafeteria?
Sure. In your board packet, there was a memo from myself to Dr. DeBray regarding cafeteria table replacements. It was brought to our attention that we had some issues with some of the existing cafeteria tables at the elementary schools. So Jessica Bowman, who's our director of purchasing, went out and surveyed all the school cafeteria tables with the current manufacturer and identified 4 locations where the tables were just beyond repair. They were in bad shape, and we had some serious safety concerns. So based on their recommendations, Jessica went out and sent out an RFP to 8 vendors who sell that style of cafeteria table. Some are on the wall, some are actually recessed in the wall, so they're kind of specific for our schools. But she did go out to solicit bids from 8 vendors, and I think she got 3 vendors who submitted bids. And in your packet, it was Carroll Seating, National Business Furniture, and Office Essentials. Out of those 3 bidders, Carroll Seating was the least expensive. They were the low bidder. Once we had gotten those bids, it was brought to our attention. You'll notice at the bottom of my memo that St. Peter's Elementary had identified a need for an additional table. So we added that table in. So that's why they're at the bottom. My bid is a little bit more than what we actually got out for bid, because we took a unit price and just added that to it. So I'd like to ask for the approval to go ahead and purchase those tables and try to get them done before school starts.
Any questions?
What type of ongoing maintenance comes along with the purchase? Or is it just you buy them and?
There's a warranty on them. I'm not sure the length of the warranty. I'd have to ask Jessica. I would have to find that out. I don't know what the warranty is that she got on those. I want to say it's at least a 15, 20 year, but I would totally be guessing really on that.
Do you know if it covers everything with any type of repairs or certain repairs, or?
I don't know, Jessica.
And I'm not trying to be facetious.
No, that's a good question.
Okay.
It's a good question. I didn't ask that question to Jessica, but I can find out and get an answer back to the board on that.
Yeah, I have one question. And these can be installed before school starts?
We're working on it. There's a 10 to 12 week lead time. So if the board approves them tonight, then we can give them the approval and give them the PO, and we're going to try to get them installed before. They may show up like the first week of school, but we've got a backup plan to have some, we're going to get them taken out during the summer, so that mess is out of the way, and then we will have tables and chairs there for the school students to use for the first few days, or whatever it would take. But yeah, that's the goal, but they're telling us a 10 to 12 week lead time.
I need a motion to approve Carroll Seating for the cafeteria tables and benches in the amount of $220,059.48. More, can I get a second, please? Callahan, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next item is reconsideration of the 2021-22 computer tech salary agreement. Our computer technicians, and there's 14 of them, are represented by the NEA. They had a multiple year agreement, and their agreement called for a 2.3% increase if the 12% balance contingency kicked in, which it did. So all of our staff received the salary increases that were warranted. In the case of the computer techs, they get an across-the-board percentage. And what was written in there was 2.3 last year, if the 12% kicked in. Of course, you know that once it did kick in, the calculation of our teachers' increases averaged 2.4%. So the computer techs through the NEA have asked that since all the support staff members were getting 2.4%, could they be reconsidered for 2.4 instead of the 2.3? 2.4% on 14 individuals amounts to about $550. So it's not a lot of money. It's probably a little bit of a psychological thing that they would like to be considered the same as at least our support staff members. And I agree with them. I would recommend to you that we allow the computer techs to have their salary increase at 2.4%, about $550 more than what it would have been.
I need a motion to approve the computer techs 2.4%.
Yes, question real quick. I don't have a particular issue with the $500. How are they different? Like, what happened that caused their contract to be stuck at 2.3 as opposed to aligning to the other support staff?
Yeah, last year, our staff got 2.3%, or 2 years ago, they got 2.3%. We negotiated a multiple year agreement with the computer techs, and so the salary that was put in with a contingency was the same as that 2.3%. So that's the way where we came up with the 2.3. So it's just a question of, do we want to allow them to at least be at the 2.4% level that the rest of our support staff got? They agreed to the 2.3.
And they don't have a salary schedule, whereas the other bargain groups that we have for FZEA have a salary schedule. So those percentages, they sit down and negotiate where that goes. The computer techs don't have that. They just have the across the board number, and that's the difference between them and the other bargain groups that we have.
So the fact that it was so close, 2.3 to 2.4, was just by happenstance then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Motion still on the floor?
Yeah.
And move for approval at 2.4%?
Can I get a second, please? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Business. New business?
Okay, first item under new business, we're going to do some curriculum revisions now, and Jen Waters will make a few comments, and then we'll introduce our curriculum coordinators.
Yep, thank you, Dr. DeBray. We have two curriculum studies to present to you this evening. The first one is high school business. This was a 2-year study, and Michelle Brinker, Pat Brown, if you'd like to come up. Michelle is our part-time curriculum coordinator, and Dr. Brown, of course, is runs our CTE, current technical education programming for the district. They did a really good job with this year. It was just the electives. Last year we did the core coursework. This year were the electives, which was interesting. They did a really nice job trying to build programming that really is relevant to students, that gets them ready to move on to university or to perhaps an actual occupation. So they're going to kind of go through and hit the high points of the new curriculum.
All right, so as Jen Waters said, we just had to work on our electives, which ended up being really good during this year because of COVID and everything like that. We did a lot of our research back in 2019 when we could meet, which was a really good thing that it happened. So we used all of that research that we learned in 2019 to drive what we were working on this year. So here's a list of all of our classes that we worked on. Just a little bit about career and technical education. We provide students of all ages with the academic and technical skills, knowledge, and training necessary to succeed in future careers and become lifelong learners. Through that, through looking through all of our resources and trying to figure out what we were who was our audience, and we found that most of our students went on to 4-year colleges. So a lot of our focus went that way. For our core courses, and then, but we still want to make sure that we include all of those students that are non-four-year university students. So in this year, we added one class called Business Production. We removed several classes, and then we made some changes, and I'll talk about all of those as we go through. We had textbook nights back in 2019 before COVID hit, and we looked through all of our materials and all of that back then. Last year, we added Introduction to Business, Marketing Foundations, Accounting, Entrepreneurship, and AP Economics, which were all well received this year. We had a lot of new students. I know several of our courses that we added last year have grown this year and in this upcoming year because of the changes that we made. Our first is Marketing Pathway. We added just the regular marketing last year in our core, and this year we had sports and entertainment marketing, we had advertising and promotion, and there was 3 classes, and we removed them and made them combined into just an advanced marketing class because we had too many kids that were picking not the same classes, and so not all of the classes made at every school. And so this way we combined them and are adding a little bit more social marketing into our curriculum for that, so that they can be more relevant in their marketing experience. We also did some change to the work program. It was mainly just a name change. That's for when the students are seniors. They can leave school early if they have a job and get credit for their job. If they work 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week, they can earn credit for that so that they get some job experience in. Our next one is Accounting Pathway. We added Advanced Accounting. Mainly, we just updated the curriculum so that it stayed current with everything else that we did. We updated the accounting one last year, and so this year we updated the Accounting Pathway. We also have in there the work program as well. It's the same as with marketing, only in the business side, and we just changed the names. But again, if students can leave early from school, they don't have to, but if they have a job, they can get credit for going to work. In our information technology pathway, we just updated the Introduction to Networks curriculum, and Cisco aligned it differently last summer, and so we waited to this year to align that one so that we were all correct with Cisco. Our computer pathway, desktop publishing, we changed it a little bit. We wanted to make it more hands-on and less course specific, so students can get a wealth of different software, some InDesign and things like that, but then also some free software that's out there because there's a lot of free software out there. Canva, I don't have a list of all of them, but there is a lot of free software, and we know that when talking with people, a lot of people use the free software. So we want to be able to give them experience in all those different ranges of software, and then not only to create different things, but actually make it. Like buttons, we talk about it, well, they'll be able to create it. A coaster, be able to create it. Stickers, decals, things like that that they would see out in the world. We're going to try and get it so that the students can make them as well. Get just a touch of what real life would be if they went into that field. We also added, I went too far. We also added Microsoft Office skills. We just changed the name from Advanced Computer Applications to Microsoft Office skills. That is a class that we are still keeping with Microsoft Office as long as we can, because a lot of businesses still use Microsoft Office out in the real world, and we find that students really need that. It's a really great class for kids when they're getting ready to go off to college. It takes them into a lot of the skills that they're going to see out in the college world. Then we have our business pathway. Personal finance didn't have very many changes. We actually got rid of our book that we had in personal finance. We found that the book in personal finance was too dated, and there are so many different free resources out there that we did not need to purchase any software. I can't think of any of the name. Next Gen is one. Take Charge is another. There's 3 different resources that we're going to be using that have full curriculums in them, and they're all free to everybody. And then the last one is our business production class, and that is completely new. We'll be creating t-shirts for the schools. So when a club or a group needs shirts to be ordered, we're going to in-house make them. We're adding some Cricuts and some vinyl cutters to be able to make those in-house. The students will be involved in the whole process from beginning to end, from meeting with the group that needs the shirts and taking their order and figuring out what they want, to ordering the shirts, making them, designing, getting approval for them, and then producing them and making a profit. We're expecting this class to be self-sustaining throughout the years and to build on it so that we can add more. We also want to do, inside of, except just shirts, we're going to try and do some yard signs. Those are the rage now, and make some for graduation and be able to work with the schools for selling those to the students, and then for incoming freshmen as well. And I think that is all that I have for tonight. Any questions?
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Have you guys looked at too, when they do the shirts, a lot of the businesses now, when we order and do that, you do it online. So you turn over the parents. Is that something that you could do across with like another class if they set the website up and how that works so they can go in and order and put that together?
That is something that we would like to get into. If we didn't get it done this year, then that's on our list to be able to have that web design be a web design webpage made into our school web pages that parents and students could go and order things off of there.
Awesome. Another thing too with the signs, incoming kindergartners.
Ooh, that's
a big thing, and 5th graders when they're leaving. So if you send to the principals, I know they'll get out to PTOs because they're always looking for that. So just another thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that last part's really important. It was very, I was part of junior achievement in junior high, and we made yo-yos in like Woods class, but we had to market it and we had to do all these different things, and everybody had their certain jobs. And it was just really, really interesting. It's something that I still carry with me today. I think it's a great experience for young adults to have too. So really great to hear that.
I would just like to add one quick thing, and I'm going to brag on Dr. Brown here for a second. We were notified today that we are going to get about $110,000 back from the state on our enhancement grant, which runs through current technical education programming, and several of the things that we are purchasing for many of these courses will be reimbursed for. So Pat does an excellent job of keeping a really close eye on that and eking every penny out of there we can. So they've done a really good job. And also Jessie Bowman, I know Lisa mentioned her before, our director of purchasing. She works so hard to make sure that all of this is right. So really a lot of credit goes to her as well.
Awesome. So do we need a motion to? Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the high school business curriculum? Somebody a second, please. Callahan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Next, we have the world language curriculum.
So just to be Dr. Brown again with Sam Bowler, who we heard in the comments this evening. What a
I did not
fantastic
plan
job.
that at all.
But gosh, all true. Really has done a wonderful job. And it is interesting, the shift that we are really seeing world language take. And I think Sam can speak to that a little bit tonight too. Trying to make it a much more immersive opportunity for students rather than just grammar, which I think we did a lot of before. So it's interesting, it's funny. I know Pat and I, we went through a lot of the materials, very quickly figured out we couldn't read any of them. But it's really been an interesting process. Sam's done a great job with getting teachers ready for this. And I think it's a hard shift, I think, for people who have been teaching for a long, long time. So she's done a great job, and I'm going to let her tell you all about it.
Hello, my name is Samantha Vogler. I graduated from Fort Zumwalt South with Mr. Helm's wife and Mr. Emmons' wife and Dr. DeBray's daughter-in-law. So class of 2000 produced a lot of good ones. It's an honor to be here, and it was an honor to write this curriculum with my colleagues because they are so hardworking, and just to have a hand in that in the school that the district I graduated from was a lot of fun for me. So let's get started. Here's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. I'm going to share with you the new curriculum that we implemented this year. You guys approved this last spring. This was for levels 1 and 2 in French, German, and Spanish. And then I'm going to talk to you about levels 3 through 5, the curriculum writing process for that. I'm going to talk to you about the old curriculum versus the new curriculum, what the changes are in those two, and how we prepare teachers and the resources that we are asking you all to approve for adoption this evening. And then lastly, I would love to answer your questions or hear your observations. All right, so level 1 and 2. You all approved this last spring, so we rolled it out this year and we were able to start teaching the new curriculum. What was really exciting, all right, JB told me there was a pointer, here it is. Up here, you'll see that we adopted novels. So that means that French, German, and Spanish students read novels in level 1. That's amazing, in another language. These weren't like half Spanish and half English. It was all Spanish or all French or all German. And it was so exciting. When students finished a novel, they felt a great sense of accomplishment, as you can imagine. In fact, here's a little evidence. This is from Fort Zumwalt East High, some students showing off the novel that they had just finished reading. So we were really proud of them. Thank you for your support in our program and improving that curriculum last year. So also with the new curriculum, we're working towards getting students ready for something called the Seal of Biliteracy. This year we had 57 students who earned that Seal of Biliteracy. And that means that we had 57 students in our district who are proficient in English and also another language as well. That number has grown tremendously from whenever we started giving the test 3 years ago. And with our new curriculum, since teachers are shifting the way that they teach, we're more proficiency-based instead of just grammar-based, I think that number is going to continue to go up. Just a fun fact, this year we had a student earn the Seal of Biliteracy in 2 languages, Spanish and French. So we're gonna see that. More and more students earning it in multiple languages. And this is recognized by employers around our area. MasterCard recognizes it, and Renewal recognizes it. And the students get 12 college credits too for demonstrating proficiency on this test, and the test is $20. So it's an amazing program that we have set up for students, and we look forward to them continuing to excel in that. This is the group of teachers that wrote the level 3, 4, and 5 curriculum, and we wrote this over the summer. These teachers were one from every building in every language. And they produced the typical things that we produced whenever we are writing curriculum. So we had our standards, we had our objectives, we added vocabulary that we were going to teach in each unit. And something different that we don't always do when writing curriculum is we created common scoring guides. So that means that if I teach at East and my colleague teaches at West, whenever we assess student writing, we're all going to use the same scoring guide so that we're in alignment there. And we can make sure we really have a good idea of what a student who is at advanced, what they really look like, or what a student who is at novice level really looks like using that scoring guide. And we had lots of discussion on best practices, which is always good. All right, speaking of best practices, there's been a hard shift in language teaching. ELA went through this shift probably, 10 years ago, where they pulled away from grammar. So world language is undergoing this shift as well. And what we're doing is we're teaching students to use the language instead of teaching students about the language. So if you took French, German, or Spanish in high school, you probably remember conjugating verbs, right? Like lots of conjugation. We're trying to pull away from that, and instead, we're just using the language to talk. It's a really simple idea. It's what we do with our kids. We read to them every night before they go to bed. We talk to them about different things, and we don't say, this is how you conjugate the verb I have, you have, he has, she has, we have. We don't do that. We just say, I have a yellow house. Do you have a yellow house? We learn a language by talking.
So that's what we're trying to do in our classes. And it seems like such a simple idea, but it's not the way that our teachers have been trained to teach, or it's not the way that I was taught. So we really had to work with teachers to show them how to do this. And Pat and Jen, there were a number of times when I was like, hey guys, I have an idea. And they said yes. They said yes to me a lot. And those ideas were all about how to train teachers. So I'm really grateful for them and believing in our program. So we're teaching teachers how to help students use the language instead of just learning about the language is the big, huge shift in our program. So this graphic right here is really helpful just for you to see where students are going to be at the end of a Fort Zumwalt program. So in level 1, which is right here on this path, I use words and phrases. So in French 1, students can just say words and phrases. They can't even really say sentences yet. Then in level 2, they start using string of sentences. And then by the time they get to level 3, they start using paragraphs. And then by the time they're in level 4, they are using paragraphs, but they're speaking the past, present, future tense. And then the seal of biliteracy is right here in that path to proficiency. So that's what we've been working towards as we write curriculum. How do we prepare teachers to implement? All those times I went to Pat and Jen and said, I have an idea. They're all right here on this list. So we have for the past 3 years been providing teachers with lots of professional development to get them ready. And I'm so grateful that Pat and Jen have always said yes to those ideas because it helps teachers feel more secure in what we're going to teach. So this is the breakdown of what we're going to be teaching in level 3, level 4, and level 5. Some really interesting topics on there like digital citizenship. Imagine talking about what it takes to be a good digital citizen in another language. It's a lot. Or the environment, talking about the environment in another language. But it's they're subjects that are really engaging for students and really relevant for students. So how do we plan to do this? Tonight, hopefully you'll approve our recommendation for some resources. We're requesting some magazines. They're called Scholastic Magazines. They have current event topics and they're targeted for students at their proficiency level. We have tons of novels that they've requested. So teachers are wanting kids to be reading more and more, just like we did with level 1 and 2, like you approved in the spring. And then a couple other resources that we have requested too. So what can I answer in terms of questions?
Yes, it's in the budget.
That's my second comment. Is there a long-term plan to incorporate additional languages, Chinese, Mandarin, Japanese?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's some school districts around us that are doing that, but there's something called a teacher shortage. No, finding world language teachers is really difficult. And I think our programs are so strong with French, German, and Spanish, and there are so many resources for those other languages for students to be able to learn too. If you need to, is that your wife? So at this point, I think that we've talked about it a little bit, but really as we're making this shift over, transitioning, this is kind of what we've been working on with our teachers, so.
You're building on your strengths.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. This goes a little, I know you're talking about high school, but we have talked about and done the stuff for middle school and looking for them to be able to start and get the credits. How is that going to tie in to all that? Because it's part, I mean.
It would be that first level course.
Okay.
And we would bump that down to middle school for students who are interested in that. Of course, they could still take that as freshmen as well.
Are we looking at doing that?
We are probably when we're in a better financial spot. I think that we heard from parents in our survey that that's something they were interested in. So we would like to do that. So I see that in the future.
I think it would be great too if some of the stuff you're saying, if we can trickle down into elementary levels too. And I know there's different parts that we have in some of the curriculum, but as much as we can immerse that, so as they go, they're constantly seeing the things as they keep learning. I think it's a great.
Thank you for your support, Erica. That's something that, I mean, who wouldn't want their child as early as kindergarten to learn a second language? So yeah, that would be the long-term vision, right? But first starts with middle school, hopefully, and then maybe trickle down. We do have a world language club in middle school where they do just a short stint. They can do up to 8 days in the different languages that we're offering now. And then maybe once funding becomes available, we can see the middle school program really come to fruition.
Sam, as we make this shift in the way we're teaching, how do we fall back to tracking that it's improving and it's easier for the kids to learn, that they're getting more proficient, and how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So those common scoring guides that we created, that's one way, is we would just want to make sure that we're being consistent and that we really know what those different levels look like, what a novice looks like, what an intermediate student looks like, what an advanced student looks like. And I'm hoping that through our PLCs in coming years, that we can start collecting samples of student writing and putting those together and saying, these are the characteristics of this type of student. Just to give you, I know that's hard if you're not a language teacher, but with your children, you knew that whenever your child started crawling, right, that they were just a crawler, and then you knew whenever they were walking that they were a walker, right? You could tell the difference between the two, and then you knew when they were in that in-between stage. So as language teachers, there's certain things that language learners do that put them in different levels. One, for instance, is being able to add detail. One is being able to use complete sentences. One is being able to use transitional words. So we look for those checkpoints or those hallmarks as students meet them, and we have scoring guides that address those too. Did that answer your question?
So those scoring guides that you're referring to, what criteria are you using to develop those, and who's involved in that? I'm just trying to get an idea, because a lot of that can kind of determine where this thing goes in the long run. You know,
so there's an organization called the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language, and they're sort of like the national group they research how people learn languages, and they set those benchmarks that I was just talking with Tom about. So we pull from them the language that they use to sort of develop those scoring guides. And then we're going to have ongoing professional development. That's one thing. Whenever we were writing curriculum, we are working with a company that called Audio's Textbook, and they have 2 national presenters who are experts on proficiency, who have come into our district and who have helped train teachers on what those scoring guides should look like, what that language should look like, and how teachers can all be on the same page when it comes to scoring.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we need a motion to approve the world language curriculum.
Do you want this?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Very good.
Thank you.
Next item, guys, we have a request from Central Electric Power Cooperative for 2 telecommunications easements on 2 of our sites. We have Central Electric Power transmission lines on both Mid Rivers and Twin Chimneys Elementary Schools. They are asking to have telecommunication easements that are right on top of the transmission easements they already have. They have buried some fiber optic on their easement, and if we give them these telecommunication easements, then other people will be able to use the fiber optics that they have available to them. Right now, they can't do it without the easements. So I would recommend to you that you would approve the 2 telecommunications easements for Central Electric Power Cooperative on both the Mid Rivers Elementary site and the Twin Chimneys Elementary site.
Any questions?
Will you require a motion for each or one motion to provide?
I think one motion is fine.
I'm just curious, the Twin Chimneys one, that just barely touches the corner of.
Right.
I mean, it's, okay.
Right.
Sure, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So I needed a motion for the easement, to approve the easement request for Central Electric Power Cooperative. Oh, sorry.
On both Mid-Rivers
On both
and
Mid-Rivers and
Twin
Twin
Chimneys,
Elementary.
correct, yeah.
Mr. Emmons, can we get a second, please?
More.
More, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Guys, appearing in the agenda is a synopsis of a return to school in 21-22 plan. This is a requirement for ESSERS 3, those funds that are available or will be available to us. It's a requirement that we put a synopsis of our plan in by June 23rd. So within the next two days, I need to publish that, so we'll qualify for those ESSERS 3 funds. Now, after we publish this on our website, I'll be meeting with some teachers and some parents and getting some more input in on the final plan. That'll be much more elaborate than that. It'll be somewhat similar to the one we had last year, but it'll be a lot reduced, because a lot of those things that we did last year we won't be doing this year. So you've had a chance to look at it. Do you have questions? Do you want me to review anything for you? Okay, it's up to the school board. You don't need to take action on this. You can if you'd like, but I'm going to, with your permission, I'll go ahead and have this posted on the website on June 23rd, so that we meet our obligations with ESSERS 3, and then I will spend the next several weeks getting some input to flesh it out.
The only action we would take would be to potentially make a motion just to vote on this so that the board has their stamp on it as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. Would be good to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that. So I need a motion to approve the 2021-22 return to school plan.
Emmons.
Can I have a second, please?
Callahan.
Callahan, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
Thank you, guys. Next item in there is our annual agreement with O'Fallon for our SROs in our middle schools and high schools. This is the same plan as it's been before. We've agreed to split the costs on the SROs at 50% of a 10-month salary. So they're not in there generally during the summer. So the city's agreed to just work on a 10-month prorated salary, and we split that at 50%. SROs do a great job for us at both the middle schools and the high schools in O'Fallon. I would recommend that we would continue this plan.
Any questions, comments? Okay, I need a motion to approve the 2021-22 City of O'Fallon SRO Partnership Agreement. Isn't there one St. Peter's too? Is that separate?
St. Peter's be next month.
Okay, for O'Fallon. Can you have a second, please?
More.
More, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much. Next item, Henry is requesting that the extracurricular task force meet to consider some teacher requests related to the establishment of clubs or the change in point values. That would be something that if you give permission, the extracurricular task force comes together. They consider the request and they will bring back any of the results to the board for action. Extracurricular task force is really, those of you that don't know about it, is a group that the HR person, Henry St. Pierre in this case, chairs. It includes all of our athletic administrators, our activity coordinators, and teacher representatives as well that are appointed by the NEA. So it's a good mix of individuals to come up with some good suggestions. And we do need to have board permission for that committee to come together and consider the requests that have been received.
Any comments?
I'm not sure timing procedurally, but Eric, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone voting on this until after we approve our budget next week. We vote on this in July. So I guess my motion would be that we pause this, we table this for 1 month, and we revisit it in July.
And what's the cost on this for them to meet? Is there a cost associated? Is there a cost associated?
There's no cost on the part of Henry or the activity coordinators. I don't believe our teachers are paid anything to be part of this.
They get compensated.
Yeah, what was that?
Is that right?
No, that's what I'm.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so,
Okay.
okay, so 3 to 4 people get 32 an hour.
Usually it's about an hour.
So, $150 we're looking at.
And I would have one question. What's the function of this group? They screen the request and then make recommendations to us as board.
That's correct. All of the extracurricular positions that have a point value, the point values are determined by this committee. And so periodically, teachers believe that maybe their point value should go up due to increased numbers of students or more time commitment, whatever. They make that recommendation to the extracurricular task force, and they meet on that. There's also the establishment of clubs. If students would like to form a club, the club has to be piloted for a year, and then after that year, they can come to the extracurricular task force for consideration. All of the recommendations come back to the school board though, so that the board gets a chance to act on those.
So
The function is to screen and make a recommendation to us.
That's correct.
So they would meet, it would cost about $150. They would bring the recommendation back to us on what any of the new clubs and point values.
Correct.
Understand correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we approve or not approve.
Correct.
I do have one question. So the 2 clubs you mentioned in this memorandum, how vital is it for that to be included within this, prior to the next meeting on the table? Is this beginning in August, or is this something that starts?
Be for the next school year.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't lose anything.
So both of those clubs are already piloted since they're coming now and asking to have it, so.
What Tom is asking for is, after we establish our budget, there will be a separate consideration for this committee.
Right.
Yes, why? Your thought process.
I'd like to see what our total budgets are. I'd like to go into this process with a recommendation based off of what's available to us.
For the
I don't think
committee
an
to
additional
meet?
30 days for any of it. I mean, let's not spend time wasting people's time. We may not be able to come back and do it. It's a 30-day delay. It's not going to impact the school at all. It's not going to impact next fall.
And that's what we're there on. So.
Well, that's the process that we have put in place. So I guess the only thing I would say, if that's not the process we want to follow, then we should need to look at changing that. Because that's, what they're doing right now is a process that we have put into place, right? To move forward with stuff. So if we need to look at how the process goes, I think that might be something we need to look at if there's an issue.
I'm okay with the process. I don't mind tabling it. I didn't consider it doesn't matter until August anyway. I feel like it's gonna need anything gonna have to do something.
Maybe else.
So I just need a second to my motion.
Motion to table it, okay. So have it in your house. So we'll table that until July.
We'll take a vote on it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I need a, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Very good. Next item, 2024. This is a 3-year agreement for our paraprofessionals. We got together with NEA representatives this year, and in 2 meetings, we were able to resolve the issues that were brought to our attention by our paraprofessionals. And there was 100% approval for them, and I'd like to recommend that the board approve it as well.
Any questions, comments? Okay,
I second.
all right. Callahan and Emmons, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. And the last item is the 21-24 three-year parent educator agreement. Likewise, we met their concerns and were able to complete that in one meeting. Really good cooperation between the NEA representatives and the parent educators, and I'd like to recommend that three-year agreement to you as well.
Need a motion to approve the 2021-24 parent educator agreement. All in second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
That's it for us.
Any comments from the board? Start with you, Mr. Evans.
I'm a little tongue-tied all of a sudden, I don't know.
You feeling okay?
Listen, I appreciate all the work. This is close to the last board meeting we have of the year. Appreciate the work that everybody's done. The professional agreement the comment I was going to make was just, it was a very intensive process. Very much look forward to some of the changes that were made in that. Appreciate everybody's support and work on that process as well. I think I'm going to end it there for now. We have some more conversations to have.
Mr. Colley?
I am very impressed with the teamwork on the business and excuse me. I just need to focus on something other than my cell phone. The world language curriculum, both those efforts are outstanding, and I think you're going to get the very strong support from the board, and it's just an issue again that was brought up. I think we're going to be looking at a long-term budget problem. We are into an era of encroachment by unfunded mandates, and they have an impact on every class and every teacher and every support member of our staff. It's going to be a constant chipping away at our resources to do an ever-expanding job, and I think it's going to get more and more difficult. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Just a personal congratulations to our employee of the year and our teacher of the year. It's always great just to see the outstanding commitment that we have from so many people in this district, and like we've seen throughout this rough year, and just everybody stepping forward, and just really good time to see that. I always enjoy our banquet that we get to celebrate that, and we didn't get to this year, so to have a little bit of that here puts a little bit of normalcy back into our minds, and really appreciate all the hard work.
Mr. Helms?
Considering everything I was going to say has already been said, no, seriously, just thank you. I mean, as a parent, especially, I get it. I know how hard this can be and how challenging it can be. And there's so many different dynamics to run in a school district, and I understand that. I'm just grateful that Fort Zumwalt is able to function at the level that they are, and I look forward to seeing where, seeing the continued growth, and excited about being able to be a part of it.
I want to congratulate to all of our graduates having the graduations. That was so awesome to see their faces and shake their hands and have them come through. It felt normal again, because that's our favorite time of year. And all the clubs, when I drive to the schools and the kiddos are out there and they're playing and they're doing normal things, and we're getting them back to where they need to be. Thank you, Jen, for all the opportunities that these kids have been given this summer. I hope many are taking advantage of it, and I know everybody's working hard to get every kiddo back to where they need to be. So again, thank you to everybody. I love the new curriculum. It's awesome. It's very exciting. And I cannot wait for this next year. So when the kids can walk in the door and feel normal again. So, I think that's it.
All right.
All right,
Meeting adjourned.
anything else? Meeting's adjourned.
Meeting
You? Sorry. Darn it, I'm ready to go. Okay, we need a motion, please. Second. All right, do your roll call or else. All in favor?
Aye.
Night. Now we're done.